better understanding as to how urea is formed and where is it formed, let us get to understand as to how is it eliminated from the body. And the first step in that is to understand the system responsible for separation and elimination of urea that has been formed in the liver. That is, we are going to talk about the excretory system, or to be still more precise, the urinary system. That is the system and its components which are responsible for separation, storage and removal of urea from the body or from the blood. Now for this, the system that's provided, it consists of a pair of kidneys, bean-shaped reddish brown structures, a pair of ureters, thin transparent yellowish structures extending from kidneys till the urinary bladder, which is meant for storage of urine till it is eliminated, and a urethra that opens to the exterior. These are the parts which form the excretory system or the urinary system. Let us get to know the details of the system and the structures. Yes, this is the excretory system, which consists of a pair of kidneys, a pair of ureters, a urinary bladder and the urethra. Just superior to the kidney would be an endocrine structure called an adrenal gland or a suprarenal gland. The term renus represents kidney, so adrenal or suprarenal is just superior to the kidney, hence it's called as suprarenal or adrenal gland. Though it is positioned just above the kidney, functionally it has hardly anything to do with working of the kidneys. Now kidneys, which are bean-shaped structures, they have their convex surfaces towards exterior and concave surfaces facing each other. On this concave side, a small curvature is seen, which is called as a hilus or a hilum. The ureter is seen to be arising or emerging from the hilus and extending up to the bladder. The blood supply for kidneys is by a branch of an aorta. These branches, one into each kidney, is the renal artery. Again, the word renus stands for kidney, artery entering into kidney, hence it's called as a renal artery. And after filtration, the blood is collected by renal veins, which join into these inferior vena cava, which then goes towards the heart. Now every kidney, when you consider its morphometry, it's about 12 centimeters long, about 6 centimeters broad and about 2.5 to 3 centimeters thick. The ureter measures to around 30 centimeters, that is almost a foot. Urinary bladder, which is a distensible bag, it can store around 400 to 500 ml of urine in normal course of time, but can be stretched to store almost 2 times or a little more than that in it, which then leads to the urethra that continues to the exterior. Now urethra in females, it's measurable to around 3 centimeters in length, while in males it is measurable to around 20 centimeters in length. That's the basic of the excretory system. Now let's get to understand the position of kidney in the human body. This is the transverse section of entire human body passing through kidneys. This is the outer body wall. This is the peritoneal lining, mesodermal layer. These are the kidneys. This is the blood supply, the renal artery, renal vein, the aorta and the inferior vena cava. This is the vertebra. Now, when we talk about the position of kidneys, it is not completely inside the viscera. So, it is described as visceral in position, in the periphery of the viscera. This is all viscera. This is all visceral cavity. So perivisceral position. Or it is not covered by peritoneum on all the sides like any other organ. Hence it's said to be retroperitoneal in position. Retroperitoneal because peritoneum kind of invaginates and covers the kidneys. But still it is covered only on 3 sides. The 4th side is not covered by peritoneum. Hence it is retroperitoneal in position. And looking at the position of vertebral column, it is just next to the vertebral column. Hence it is said to be subvertebral in position. Subvertebral, below or next to the vertebral column. Retroperitoneal because peritoneum kind of invaginates and covers it only on the 3 sides. And perivisceral because it is in the periphery of the visceral cavity. That is how the kidneys or their position is described. Now let's get to understand the details of rest of the components of the system. Details of kidney we will talk about while discussing the internal structure or the sectional view. But otherwise it is covered externally by a capsule, a fibrous covering. It's called as renal capsule. That covers it from outside. Now why is it reddish brown in color? We will get to understand it when we talk about its internal structure. The ureter, it's a double layer of non-striated muscles and 1 layer of epithelium, transitional epithelium. This is responsible for conducting the urine from kidneys through the bladder, and in normal course of time that can happen just by gravity. In downward movement it can happen. But here it can actively carry it by the peristalsis like action. The double layer of muscles, 1 layer of longitudinal muscles and 1 layer of circular muscles, that helps in conveying the urine from the kidneys till the bladder. Now both the ureters, they pass through the peritoneum and open into the bladder from the dorsal side. Now the urinary bladder, it's made up of detrusor muscles. There are intertwined muscles, cross-linked muscles which form this structure. This is again made up of 3 layers. 2 layers of muscles, that is, we'll call it as 1 layer of muscles, innermost layer of epithelium and outermost layer of a fibrous protective layer. So there will be 3 layers of coverings in it. Now these detrusor muscles offer it a capacity to go on distending. As the urine trickles down into it, it goes on extending, it goes on stretching. But yet the urine is not passed because between bladder and urethra there is a kind of sphincter. The bladder leads to urethra through an internal urethral sphincter. Just next to that there is another sphincter which is called as external urethral sphincter. These 2 sphincters, they regulate the entry of urine from bladder into urethra. Now, as I said, in males, the urethra is measurable to about 20 centimeters in length, out of which first about 2.5 centimeters, it's called as prostatic urethra. Next, around 2 to 2.5 centimeters is called as membranous urethra, and rest of all that passes through the penis, it's called as penile urethra, which leads to the exterior, which opens to the exterior. Now, in this bladder, there are 2 openings of the ureters and 1 opening of the urethra. The 3 openings, they mark an area which is called as a trigone. So when the bladder is completely emptied, that trigone area would not be completely collapsed. It would remain as an appropriate triangular thing. Ureters open into the bladder from the dorsal side, so their entry into bladder gets naturally controlled, while entry of bladder into urethra is controlled by a voluntary sphincter, urethral sphincter, internal and external. They are both under voluntary control. The ureters are lined by involuntary muscles. The bladder is also lined by involuntary muscles, but the sphincters are regulated by voluntary muscles. So the flow from bladder into urethra, it's voluntarily controlled. So how are you finding these videos? Keep watching them, subscribe to them, share amongst your friends and family. Thank you. Don't forget to leave your suggestions or comments.